Hello, everyone, and welcome to the post-crisis chat. Excuse the flub. This is the Brave and the Bold edition. As always, I'm your co-host Cookie, and with me is the ever-present co-host. And
And what?
I'm giving you your introduction. There you go. Say your shit. Say your shit.
If you're if you're a first time viewer, please remember to like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification so you are notified next week when we upload our next episode.
Yeah, it seems like such a small thing to do, but it actually really does help us grow, and we want to grow this channel as big as I can't even. If you're not a first time viewer, we want to welcome you back. We are so thankful to have you here and have you put up with our constant bickering and whatever it is we do here.
Yeah, definitely. So please be advised that we will be talking about decades old spoilers in the issue we'll be discussing today. Cookie, before we jump into this issue, do you know, and if you know, don't tell me. We'll talk about it at the end. But do you know what connection this Swamp Thing comic has to Neil Gaiman's Sandman comic?
I have no idea.
Okay, that's okay. We're going to talk about it at the end.
We are discussing Swamp Thing number 44. There's that beautiful looking cover right there. And as always, it is written by the eccentric and talented Alan Moore, drawn by Stephen Bissette, and inked by Jon Totleben.
This cover is actually by Stephen Bissette and Jon Totleben. This cover is pretty interesting. It seems well drawn. The colors are spectacular. I'm not 100% sure why Swamp Thing is running in front of an American flag with red stripes dripping down like blood. We also see what looks like he is splashing in mud or water at the bottom. I kind of don't get this cover. I mean, I've gotten all the others up to this point, and they've all been good, and this one's well drawn, but I don't get it.
I It's a cool cover. I mean, like it is a really cool cover. And as we will get into as we discuss it further, to me it's very misleading. It's like I don't entirely know what this has to do with anything in the story. Like there's nothing. I don't even think an American flag appears in the book. Like you could have at least thrown it in the bloody background. Or something.
So we open with some men drinking in a bar. One man tells another to test him with a number. Then we get a close up of his eyes. Something Alan Moore likes to do a lot, or maybe it's Bissette. But I suspect the eye thing is Alan Moore, especially given what we find out about this person being tested later. The eyes seem to be crying, which adds a bit of creepiness. Um, the man describes the eyes of 58 without any context, except without the context that also seems kind of creepy. Um, then we get the same thing for 32, but the man calling out numbers is confused as to why he is calling out numbers. The person being tested says people call him callous, but he remembers every single set of eyes.
Yeah. Like I not gonna lie, I was a little confused. Like it was interesting, but I was a little confused of what we were doing here, like where we were going with this. But I think that's kind of typical sometimes with Alan Moore books.
Yeah,
It feels like the beginning is kind of confusing. The eyes, though, are beautifully drawn. I mean, this is one of the few times where I was like, Bassett really, really hit it on the head with this.
the eyes are good, and in fact, I commented on the art of this page in general. It isn't bad, but it isn't great either. I already missed Stan Woach from last issue.
I mean, yeah, last issue was like really, really good, but I got to give him credit on the eyes. I thought he did a good job. At least those two panels where you're seeing like the real close of them. It's just I thought he did at least conveying emotion. Like I feel like there's definite emotion going into that.
You know what? I'll give you that 100%. There's some emotion in those eyes. You're absolutely right about that. So on the next page, we get a 2-page spread of Swamp Thing coming up Abby's sink. We also get a cameo from a Clive Barker novel. Barker is a British horror writer who was just becoming popular in the US around the time this issue was written. Alan Moore has been compared to Barker often. Um, I think the art here is pretty well done, with the exception of Abby's face in that fourth panel. I also love the sound effects on this page. And I don't know if you noticed, but one of the sound effects is snicked, like Wolverine's claws. Um, I
Oh,
possibly just a coincidence, but maybe it's a little nod, a little wink.
I could see that definitely. I didn't notice that. I hardly I don't pay attention to the sound effects as much as you do. They're just kind of there for me. So,
And I think you'll find it interesting too. One of the sound effects is Ween, as in Lynn Wein, the creator of Swamp Thing.
oh, all right, that's kind of cool too. Yeah, see, like, I need to start paying attention to this now because I did not catch that.
Yeah, there's little Easter eggs all over the place. And we've talked about
Hmm.
sound effects before. I actually like sound effects in books. I like when they show things like this. Some of these I can absolutely picture in my brain, in my head. I can hear them in my head. Others not so much.
Yeah, a couple of them, like I don't know what a chwip sounds like. A spuck, maybe I can kind of hear spuck in my mind. Um, but yeah, a few of them are kind of like schlop. Sounds familiar. Like I think I've dropped a couple of schlops in my lifetime. I'm not sure. A quelch is not really. I mean, maybe from a horror movie. Maybe that's when the guy gets his guts cut out or something. Maybe that quelch. Um, SPAC. I'm not sure what SPAC is. I mean, when I hear SPAC, I think of my brother's best friend when he was in high school, Spackman. But I'm pretty sure that that guy doesn't have his own sound effect.
That would be kind of awesome if you did. So anyway, I also like how Abby is like afraid of what's going on, and she has the plunger, but she's kind of clutching it like a weapon.
I thought that I was like, what are you going to do with a plunger? If something's coming out of your toilet, it's like, I mean, a plunger is not going to do much.
We've all been there. When something's coming out of your toilet, a lot of times the plunger can do something. But given the strangeness of her life, I'm not sure the plunger would do much against the things that she's used to facing.
No, like in the DC universe, if there's a weird sound coming from your toilet, it's not your toilet backing up. The plunger is not going to save it. That's going to be a crap demon that's coming out of your toilet. That's going to be like a 12-foot tall crap peanut infested demon.
It's going to be the poop demon from that Kevin Smith movie, Dogma.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking of. I could picture that being the demon coming out, and no plunger in the world is gonna get rid of that guy.
So anyway, moving on to the next page, we get the title of the issue, Bogeymen, which that caught my eye because it's plural.
Yeah, that kind of like I was like, okay, like are we getting a tag team of boogeymen coming in? Like where is this going? I'm very interested at this point. I'm also very confused as to why Swamp Thing is sitting on the toilet.
I have it in my notes that Swamp Thing is sitting on the toilet like he's about to drop a load. He has a grin on his face and a toothbrush sticking out of his shoulder. I think he actually looks very proud of himself, though. I mean, and he just drops hilarious hello.
Very very casual. Like every day you're just gonna walk in and there's gonna be a swamp monster sitting on your crapper.
Right? And the toothbrush does it for me. I mean, that toothbrush sticking out of his shoulder is just perfection. Bissette
I haven't
or
noticed the
whoever
toothbrush.
killed it with this one.
Yeah, like that's great. I didn't even catch that the first time around. Now that you brought it up, I see it. It's like, that is pretty good.
Um, so as we go to the next page, um, Abby looks annoyed. Bissette actually did a really good job with Abby's face in the first panel. Um, well, scratch that. The face probably looks good because it's Ron Randall who did it. Abby's dialogue here sounds like she's annoyed. Swamp Thing says he thought she might be tired of going to the swamp to visit him. He's trying to be a good partner to her and come visit in her home. He says he grew himself from the flora in her pipe, which I'm sure might be a little gross, but at this point, She has to know that gross stuff is going to happen when your significant other is a swamp elemental.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to expect some stuff like this. It kind of makes me feel bad for Swamp Thing, and this whole issue is like she kind of felt like a crappy girlfriend at this point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more as we go on, but Abby does soften up again, and again, there's a great drawing of her face here in that middle panel. She realizes that she's actually happy to see him, despite the fact that he grew out of the fungus and mold in her drain pipe. Um, but she also starts to think about how Swamp Thing might be damaging her apartment, and she wants to get newspaper for him to walk on. Swamp Thing has shown up to talk about my favorite bloke, Constantine. Constantine has not contacted Swamp Thing lately, and Abby thinks that might be a good thing. Swamp Thing isn't sure if it's good or not that Constantine hasn't contacted him. He's mainly frustrated. And I wanted to call out the art in that top panel. It just looks so bad to me. I mean, it's awful. While Swamp Thing talks about Constantine, Abby tells Swamp Thing to stay on the paper and away from the window. Swamp Thing leaves, seemingly sad, and it doesn't seem like he was done talking either. Abby tells him to let her know the next time he is coming. But these two are supposed to be romantic partners. Maybe even they consider themselves married. And as Swamp Thing says, Abby is treating him like he's inconvenient. I feel like Abby is not being a very great person here. And at the end of the page, she accuses him of sulking, which I think is a really bad look on Abby, despite her decent looking face in the panel.
I'm gonna say probably going through this entire run so far, we have seen many different faces to Abby's personality, and this is one of the few times where we've kind of seen her be the kind of annoying, we'll say, girlfriend.
Hmm.
Uh, it definitely humanizes her.
It does. And you know what? I kind of had a bad opinion of her after reading this, but your point about humanizing her is actually really good. It's props to Alan Moore for making her a more three-dimensional character. So we head on over to page 7 and we are introduced to Steve Dayton. Steve Dayton is, quote, the fifth richest man in the world. He was a member of the superhero team, the Doom Patrol, calling himself Mento. He utilized a special helmet which amplified his mental energy in the form of telekinetic bolts and such. He is married to teammate Rita Farr, aka Elastigirl, he was killed by enemies of the original team, and he is the adoptive father of Gar Logan, aka Changeling, in the new Teen Titans. And what's funny is, not long ago, I had been reading some post-crisis New Teen Titans, and
Mhm.
he actually showed up in that book. And when I saw him in this one, I was like, "Oh, hey, I know who you are."
Like, oh, that flashback.
Yeah, no doubt. Also, as a side note, I have recently read Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Constantine appears with Steve Dayton in issue number 4 of Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Oh.
It's in the same month that Swamp Thing issue number 38 was originally published. So it's cool to kind of see that bit of continuity going on there.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they don't do that as much with crossovers these days, but I haven't really been reading many current crossovers, so I don't know what's going on. I always wondered, is it just because is it so hard to like get everyone together to plan out this stuff of like, okay, so and so is going to show up in this issue, but also during that this event is going on, so it's like, is that just a hard thing for the editors and the writers and like the whole creative team to coordinate?
It shouldn't be a hard thing for the editors to do. It's their freaking job. Like, literally, that's what they're there for, is to set up moments like this.
It depends. I mean, nowadays in the current era, it seems like editors are there to basically ghost write the book. If you go back and look at some of Marvel's stuff in the last couple of years, it seems like the writers are basically just writing what the editors are telling them to write.
We're not going to talk about Marvel's current editors, especially the current editor of X Men, because I really don't like that guy. But we're digressing here. I don't want to get too far off topic. We see Dayton and Constantine drinking together, and in continuity, Dayton is known as an alcoholic. They are discussing the very same crisis this show is named after. That is currently, when this issue is happening all throughout the DC universe. Constantine tells Dayton not to worry about the crisis, but more about what comes after. I feel like this is more subtly speaking to the audience to tell the audience the crisis really isn't important to the book. What is important is going to happen in the book. They go outside and they see the red sky, which is commonly associated with the crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah. I also had wondered, and it could just be the I don't want to say cynic in me, but we'll say the cynic in me of was that also kind of a nod to the audience of like, hey, don't worry about the crisis, worry about what's happening afterwards because all right, crisis was basically erasing all of the previous continuity and kind of trying to streamline it. And I mean, granted, it did work out pretty decently for them, but it was kind of a 50-50 shot of like, you guys could have totally crapped the bed on this.
Yeah, maybe. But and maybe that is more making subtle commentary. But I feel like people kind of knew what was going to happen in the crisis. I kind of think DC kind of hyped up that, we're going down to one universe kind of thing.
Yeah, which is it's smart on one end, but on the other end, it's like obviously it wasn't that smart because you guys went back to the multiverse.
Yeah, well, we're not going to talk about the 18,000 crises that have happened since the original crisis. So we move on to the next page, and holy Batman's Batman. We got Batman making a cameo appearance in the issue. Batman is telling people not to be outside, but he recognizes Dayton. Dayton reminds Batman he was at Dayton's wedding to Rita. So I actually wonder, is there an issue of the Doom Patrol floating around where we see Dayton and Rita getting married with Batman in costume at the wedding? Because I could totally see him doing that.
Oh, that I would love to see if there is a wedding issue of the Doom Patrol. I don't know much about the Doom Patrol. I mean, outside of basically Beast Boy coming out of it, and then pretty much I think Grant Morrison's run is like when I first started to really, really hear about the Doom Patrol, and he went a totally different direction. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious now. We need to look it up.
Constantine makes a quip about never knowing who you're going to run into. And I really enjoyed Batman's one page cameo here. It was kind of cool.
It was I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was actually well drawn, except for the like bottom panel where Batman's running like he's got a stick up his butt. But, the rest of it I thought was pretty good. I did have a problem only with the fact that like I feel like the way they always portray Batman or the way they've built up the myth of Batman so much within the fandom, like this dude is not going to forget being at a wedding. I feel like Batman knows what he got from Walmart on the fifth Tuesday of February in 1967. Like he knows everything. It's just locked up in there.
I think you're right. But hey, this is pre-crisis Batman, so who knows what the crisis is going to end up doing to him.
Oh,
Um,
that's true. This is technically before Frank Miller, and I quote, gave Batman his balls back.
I assume you're talking about year one, right?
Year one and The Dark Knight Returns.
Okay. Next, we switch back to the gentleman in the bar. Numbers keep coming up as the creepy guy keeps describing eyes. The man with him is very drunk. The creepy guy, who we now can reveal as the Boogeyman, tells him that they're going to take a shortcut through the swamp. The current Boogeyman says he knew the actual Boogeyman personally. I thought this was decent artwork on the eye close ups, but I think the drunk guy's face there at the top is pretty bad.
It's yeah, it's not a great looking face, and even the like very first panel, the shading is just kind of not well done. I don't like those long. I don't know what you call. They're not really cross hatches, but I don't know if it's feathering or what it is, the technical term, but that's just too much of it going on there.
Yeah, I agree. And I've got that up on the screen now where people can see. But yeah, it's not great. Again, the two sets of eyes that we get here are just chef's kiss. I mean, it's the eyes are so creepy and detailed, and this is where Bissette just this is his niche, I guess. It's drawing eyes. He's really good at it.
He's really, I mean, like those close-ups are very, very good, very creepy. I love it, especially that bottom one. It looks like the horror on the face, like the victim is being actually killed. It
Yep.
just it looks creepy. The bottom panel, I want to point out, and this is again, this is one of those things that's possibly just purely just me, but I can almost see a resemblance between that drawing of of the drunk at the bottom. Kind of looks a little bit like Todd McFarlane to me.
So anyway, going into it further, the boogeyman says the original boogeyman used to be the janitor to school. He says the janitor used to grab him by the short hairs of the temple and pull them. The pain would make you feel sick. As the boogeyman says that, the drunk guy is about to throw up, which I thought that was kind of like, it would make you sick, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be sick." Like that feels very Alan Moore.
It does. It definitely does.
Next, we see the current boogeyman wrapping fishing line around his fist. The current boogeyman says he ground up glass in the old boogeyman's coffee. The old boogeyman was number one. We find out what the numbers the current boogeyman has been talking about are the number of people he has killed. When the old boogeyman died, the current boogeyman filled his old position. Current says his second was a young girl he went to school with. She was number two. Drunk guy doesn't want to talk numbers, but Boogeyman tells him that everyone has a number. Art wise, the eyes look great. The face and lack of background here, not so much, with the exception that right panel that looks pretty good with the moon and the owl in a tree. I dig that panel a lot, even though
Yeah.
it's all black and orange and just the white moon. It's really well drawn.
Yeah. I mean, the lack of background doesn't bother me with this because I mean we're getting the red sky obviously because of the crisis event. So I think that's why we're getting that bright orange red background.
I'm a
But
total idiot. I
other
did
than
not
that, like
realize that was the red sky in the background. I should have known that. I
yep.
called it out earlier, and I had totally forgotten about it by this point in the book. I'm dumb.
But I mean, I kind of I do see what you're saying of like there should have been like maybe some hint of trees or something in the background, but I kind of feel like that sometimes you don't always need a background. Like all you need is specifically what is happening in the moment of the shot and the panel to kind of establish the mood of what's happening. And I kind of did get that vibe off of this. Like you knew there was a death coming. It's just blatantly obvious what's happening. The eyes on that first panel though are so amazing.
Yeah, you're right. I've got them up on the screen at the moment, and I 100% agree with you on those. So on the next page, the boogeyman tells Drunk Man that Drunk Man's number has come up. That top panel art is just the freaking worst. I mean, this is the probably the worst panel in the whole book. It's awful.
I felt this whole page was just kind of I don't know, it just wasn't that great. But it did work in a sense of it felt I felt the urgency, like the rush of like, okay, this is there's something going on here, like some like obviously action is happening. And it felt like because of the artwork feeling a little bit rushed, like I almost got that pace coming off of just that style alone. If you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, I do, and maybe that makes it a little better. But one thing I did want to point out though is that owl. I thought the owl looked great. I thought the owl was very well placed. The red skies, which I forgot about, despite that, um, I think the owl, the red skies, the moon, the owl taking off. Those panels aren't very detailed, but I still really like the essence of them. I think the owl is very well drawn. I'm with you on the rest of the page not being great, but I think the owl is just wonderful.
Yeah, the owl looks pretty good. I will give it that. The owl's not too bad. The rest of it is very rushed, but I don't know. It just kind of worked for me for some reason. And I don't know why.
Hmm. Well, at the bottom of the page, we find out that was victim number 165. And as we go to the next page, this part kind of amused me a little bit. The boogeyman is robbing drunk man because, of course, no one is paying the boogeyman any wages. He takes the boogeyman tax, $33. And when he takes that, he remembers victim 33. Boogeyman decides that there's no need to cover up the body. No one will find it for weeks. And then we see Swamp Thing closing the eyes of the murdered man. The connection with eyes here is actually really cool. It gave me a bit of a chill when I was reading this and making notes for the episode.
No, this one because I thought as I was reading it, it was funny how we always do mention that eyes are very important to Alan Moore, especially in this particular run of Swamp Thing. And this entire issue was basically eyes. Like it was just eyes all over the place. It's like this was. I think we made this joke once before, but it's like there were more eyes in this book than there were feet in the entire run of a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Not possible. As we move on to the next page, the boogeyman talks about the boogeyman moon. He calls it boogeyman night. And it led me to wonder if he only kills on full moons. And if so, he has a victim a month, which would indicate that he's been killing for 13 and a half years. At being roughly in 10th grade, if we take his second victim, a 15-year-old girl, into account, the boogeyman would be around 28 years old. There's no other indication of that anywhere in the comic. That was just something that I thought about while I was reading and thinking of the numbers.
I wish I could say I got that excited over math, but it just kind of glazed over my mind, and I was just like, "Ooh, bad guy die." Hopefully,
Normally I don't, but for some reason I started thinking about that because I realized as we go through this that you're not seeing the boogeyman. You're seeing, maybe through his eyes, but you never actually see him, at least not so far. Anyway, the boogeyman
yeah.
realizes. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. I didn't really catch on to that until I think it may be even like this page or the page after that. It finally clicked in my mind of like, oh, we're getting a POV comic essentially, which I thought was kind of interesting because I don't think I've ever read a single comic book that is done almost entirely in POV shot.
I feel like I've seen it somewhere before, but not recently, and it was a long time ago, and I couldn't tell you what it is. But it's very, very rare in comics, 100%. The boogeyman realizes he is lost, and he pulls out a map and starts thinking about heading out of Louisiana into Arkansas. The police departments will never connect him, he doesn't think. He notices he would take Highway 165, and he has just killed his 165th victim. He is sure it's not a coincidence. My opinion, the art here, even looking at the eyes and the owl, it's just not very good. It's really generic, not much details. Uh, and this page wasn't great in general. While the boogeyman wanders the swamp, he thinks about how many other serial killers he has met up with. One guy in Portland has 650 kills. He laments that Charlie Manson and others get all the fame. Richard Speck, convicted for the 1966 murders of 9 women in one house, suspected of the murders of 5 women of that year. He died in jail. Charles Manson, somebody else he mentions, a career criminal who started a cult, the Manson family, based on a ranch near San Francisco. In the late 19 uh, in late 1969, he ordered members to kill several people whom he felt had hindered his quest for show business and fame. He still remains in jail to this day. The other serial killer mentioned is Son of Sam David Berkowitz, who terrorized New York City in the summer of 1976 with a string of 13 random street shootings. He was finally caught in 1977. He was sentenced to 365 years in jail, and he said that a dog told him to commit the murders. So that's the people that this guy is comparing himself to.
That's first off, I want to say 650. That's amazing. That's almost how many takes it took for you to get to that line. Um, yeah. So I did not know that. So the son of Sam, it was a dog. He said that told him to
Yes,
kill.
the dog told him to commit the
See,
murders.
now you understand why me and Alan Moore don't like dogs.
No, because this no. This is another case where Alan Moore is picking on dogs. Alan Moore doesn't like dogs. That's why he threw the Son of Sam in there.
Is it that, or is it the fact that he knew of the son of Sam before and is like, you know what, man, dogs are telling people to kill people. Those are evil, evil creatures. So I'm just going to not like them and kill them in comic books.
Hmm. Anyway, um, so we actually see him stretch a worm between his fingers, which I think is a callback to when he was stretching the fishing line between his fingers. He actually tears the worm in half and throws it down. And I'm actually convinced that him tearing that worm in half is how Swamp Thing ended up finding exactly where the boogeyman was. I think the worm called out to Swamp Thing in the green, or if not called out specifically to Swamp Thing, at least Swamp Thing heard its cries as it was torn in half. Um, Boogeyman leans against the tree to get mud off his boots, and the tree takes his hand. Seeing that line in the comic made me laugh. I literally laughed out loud when I read that.
That was pretty good. That kind of came out of nowhere. Of like, okay, the tree takes my hand. I mean, that was a surprise.
On the next page, Boogeyman yells and thinks it's a bear, which is a funny callback to the previous issue. In the previous issue, we talked about everyone knowing that there's a creature in the swamps due to the footprints, but some people think the footprints are just a bear. I really like that little callback there.
I didn't even catch that. That is kind of cool. I did not even think about that.
I miss the red skies in the background, so I pick up the little stuff. You help me see the glaringly obvious stuff that I miss. The boogeyman sees Swamp Thing abandon his body as if Swamp Thing had melted. Boogeyman is sure that it is a trick of the light. Boogeyman thinks that the guy is a local Cajun and that victim number 166 is on the way. He wonders what color the Cajun's eyes will be. Then we get a perfectly drawn panel of Swamp Thing's red and yellow eyes. Just wow, this panel is truly perfect. 5 of 5, no notes. The way the moonlight reflects off the eyes, the intensity and the anger in the eyes. I could just go on for paragraphs about how good this one single panel is.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's no real critique on there. It's really, really beautifully done. I always love when people draw eyes because the eyes are just they're so fascinating to draw and to look at in like pieces of art and stuff. I think that's one of the reasons I'm getting into anime.
I just realized, I think Swamp Thing's eyes are red either because they're reflecting the red skies, or maybe the crisis is having some kind of effect on Swamp Thing himself and turning his eyes red. I didn't pick up on either of those things until right now while I was looking at it.
That's an interesting possibility. I didn't even think about that. Like, would the crisis affect Swamp Thing because it's essentially he represents the planet, the Earth, and that's kind of what they're doing with the. It's like the death of like the anti monitors trying to destroy not just the universe but like the planet. So that would affect Swamp Thing.
It would, yeah. That's I hadn't even gone that deeply into the thought process on it, but
Yeah,
you're absolutely right.
that literally just like popped in my head now. So there's like a live as we're recording, just instant thought that popped up of like, oh, okay, that's kind of intriguing. I'm now actually a little bit more interested to see how farther into this story we go if my theory is correct.
Moving on to the next page. Boogeyman tries to shank Swamp Thing, but we know that won't work. He cuts off Swamp Thing's hands. This is an awesome and kind of creepy turn of events. Swamp Thing hand starts growing and entangling the boogeyman while the boogeyman is trying to get Swamp Thing's tentacle branches off of him. The tentacle branch page coming out of the hand like that. Oh, this is another excellent panel. It's not as good as the eyes, but this one's up there for sure.
It's really cool. It gives that really good horror vibe, and it's another reason as to why I would love to see a Swamp Thing movie done currently. Of like, give us that horror movie of Swamp Thing that we're all craving to see.
Yeah, I think that would actually be really cool. A rated R Swamp Thing horror movie would be excellent. So then we see a really great illustration of Swamp Thing growing a new body out of the nearby plants. He has actually gotten really quick at this since when he originally started. And we can actually thank Constantine for helping to teach Swamp Thing to do this thing so fast. Not the greatest panel in the book, but it is one of the better ones. Seeing him grow up like that, and Swamp Thing in uh, that right hand panel, he just looks really horrific there.
He reminds me of, and if there's any horror fans that watch the show, he reminds me of Tarman from the Return of the Living Dead, right there, of just that horror, like melting kind of look to him.
I've not seen that, but I kind of want to now. Boogeyman continues to run while Swamp Thing is popping up in front of him constantly. Boogeyman starts to think that maybe Swamp Thing is his replacement as the Boogeyman. And then I want to call out that amazing sound effect on the bottom of the page. Slooch! As his leg goes into what we're about to learn is quicksand.
Again, like I said, I don't pay attention to. I'm gonna have to start paying more attention to the sound effects. I think I did not realize you got off on them.
Yeah, dude, it's you know what? It's that 60s Batman that I hate. I'm sure that kind of conditioned me to it. Um Next we see the boogeyman trapped in quicksand, something that I actually dreadfully feared as a child. And it turns out there's not as much quicksand in the world as TV and movies would have you believe. But anyway, he insists that Swamp Thing tell the rest of the world how many people the boogeyman killed. Swamp Thing looks uber angry with thorns popping out all over the place. I freaking love this version of Swamp Thing, and I hope we get to see more of thorny, angry Swamp Thing. I'm also pretty sure that that is not Bissette's art for Thorny Swamp Thing.
I don't think so either. It doesn't look like the set to me, but I like it. I like the design as well, and it makes me think: is it going to be kind of like how the Incredible Hulk is, where it seems like the Hulk kind of changes shades depending on like various personalities? Could that be that we're getting like Swamp Thing in different moods? We're going to get different appearances for him.
I certainly hope so, and I hope that if Alan Moore didn't continue that forward, that the people who picked up after Alan Moore do continue that going forward. As the boogeyman sinks, he tries to tell Swamp Thing his name, but he gets cut off with the quicksand in his mouth. And I'll actually have more to say about that at the end. But after that, we only see darkness as Boogeyman speaks, asking where he is. Based on the text and overall context of Swamp Thing, it looks to me like Boogeyman has ended up in hell, like the same place that Anton Arcane ended up in, where Swamp Thing had to go get Abby's soul back from.
Hmm. I didn't think about that. That's clever.
Move on to the next page. Swamp Thing wonders how much horror this country will end up seeing. And I wonder if maybe that somehow ties into the cover of the blood running down with the stripes and the American flag. I'm really not sure. That's like the only thing I could think of that would really kind of connect the cover to the story. That's all I got. It's not great.
Yeah, I'm still like I have not seen anything that ties that cover to this book at all.
Um, Now we do see that Swamp Thing says that Constantine has shown him much horror. Swamp Thing tries to make sense of what Constantine has shown him. I like how Swamp Thing here compares the horror he has seen to the entrails of America, as if somehow studying those entrails will have some sort of enlightenment will come. Combine that with the spider web, which is a pattern, and Swamp Thing is clearly looking for a pattern here. Just awesome and amazing storytelling, and this entire metaphor here just feels really well put together and a really cool concept.
I felt these last 2 pages, these aren't the last 2 pages of the book, but at least these last 2 pages here are really like this made the whole book for me. Up until this point, I was just kind of like, like it wasn't didn't suck, but it wasn't great. It was just kind of there. But the artwork and the storytelling on this were really, really good.
Yeah. And in fact, I'll even go on to the next page now. And this page just we get a full
Um,
page close up. We see Swamp Thing just kind of walking away at the bottom, with Swamp Thing wondering why Constantine continues to leave him in the dark. The art on here is just stellar. I really love that you see half of his face, and the left eye is just like a moon. Um,
I thought it was really well done. This is one of those ones where I would love a poster of this. That's how good it was.
on the last page, we see Abby sitting in a dark room, and then dark, just like Swamp Thing from the previous page. Killing it, Alan Moore. Absolutely killing the references from one page to another, in my opinion. Abby is eating chips and reading when we hear her phone ring. The phone scares her. To be fair, my phone scares me too, which is why I never answer it when it goes off. Um, it's Constantine on the line, and he tells Abby to relay to Swamp Thing that Swamp Thing needs to be in San Miguel, California, the last stop before the finale. All of this is leading up to issue 50, and I cannot wait until we get there.
Well, we still got about what 5 issues left.
Yep, it's coming though. So, going back to what we talked about at the beginning of the video with Neil Gaiman's Sandman, the serial killer in this story is mentioned and impersonated in Neil Gaiman's Sandman number 14 in the storyline The Doll's House. Gaiman's story explores the concept of serial killers, how their minds work, and the convention meetings they have in much greater detail. Gaiman uses the idea of showing a serial killer's point of view and not his face in Sandman number 10. This is one of the most obvious examples of Moore's influence on Gaiman's writing.
Okay, I know about the serial killers convention because there was a documentary that came out in it was I believe the early 2000s that went into the history of comic books, and they interviewed Gaiman, and he talked about how he had a problem with editorial because he was going to mention masturbation in the issue, and he got a note back saying that characters in the DC universe do not masturbate.
DC editorial at the time seems a little overzealous. I'm going to assume this was not
Yes,
Karen Borger who did all of the early Vertigo editing. It probably came from above her.
I would assume it did. I really, really would.
Bissette getting help on the art is actually making a market improvement over prior art, but overall, this issue does still seem rushed. I really wish that more comics would get an entire run in the can before they start publishing. They didn't do that back in the 80s, and they certainly don't do it now. But I think rushed art can kill a book, and I also think delayed books kill momentum. I'm looking directly at you, Brian K. Vaughan, and Saga.
I'm I mean, I can look at a lot of them. I mean, like Jim Lee has been late on stuff. I just read before I started reading the current arc for JSA. I read the miniseries that like was like Jeff Johns' farewell to the DC universe. I think that took like 3 or 4 years to eventually like wrap up. Um, and then what Doomsday Clock I think like took forever to do. So for some reason, modern comics just they can't do a schedule.
This is a lot of why I don't do that many single issues, because things get delayed. Now, I mentioned that I wanted to talk more about serial killers. And I actually put in my notes the same thing you did, not getting to say his name to Swamp Thing. And if you notice in the issue, we never actually see the serial killer. We never got to hear his name. We never got to see him glamorized in the comic because that's what the serial killers want. They want to be known for their deeds. This one certainly does, at least. And look how he laments Manson and the others getting famous when he wasn't, and hasn't. I think Moore did a spectacular job of getting that point across that um, the serial killer wanted to be glamorized and they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I like that. Like I said, it felt very satisfying to me that that's what he did, and because yeah, real life you don't ever get that kind of satisfaction. So looking at that, I might improve my grade when we get to the grading point just a little bit. But like all in all, I still felt like it was just kind of a there issue for me.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk about rating. Um, I'm going to give this issue 3 out of 5 horny. Wait, I mean thorny. This is not the right issue for horny. 3 out of 5 thorny swamp things.
I was going to say that kind of tells a little bit more about your personal life, but we won't go there. Um, I'm going to give it a 2 for me. It's going to be 2.
I can understand that. I think I bumped it up higher because I realized that connection to Game and Sandman. And that didn't even really improve the story, but having read the Game and Sandman first and then having read the story after, it does improve the story for me personally. So that's why I gave it a slightly higher score. But your score is totally valid too.
I'd hope it would be valid. I would hate to be like dismissed by you. Oh, great and powerful one.
I hope that came across.
Yeah, oh yeah, I got that one beautifully. All right, that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank everyone for joining us tonight and putting up with us. We're always really glad to have you here with us watching. Do this for the love of comics. So if you're watching, we hope you love comics too.
Absolutely. The comic books are our favorite thing. It's what we bond over. It's what we talk about all the time, even when we're not on the video. Anyway,
That's the only
just
thing saving our friendship.
please join us on our Patreon where we have our post-crisis chat book club for the members. We let our patrons get their say on the book, and we'll read some of your comments on the channel when we record. Once people decide to start leaving comments, you can find us on Blue Sky. The link is down in the description.
Yes, and speaking of descriptions, hey, don't forget to check the description for the links to our Amazon affiliate page. Do you want to support us? We want you to support us. So you can click on the book we're reading tonight in various formats. Yeah, if you click on that Amazon affiliate link, you make the purchase, and a little bit of that money comes back to us. And we need that money because we're poor people, and it's gonna help the channel grow even better. So and best thing, not gonna cost you anything extra.
Yes, and you can see I am holding up Swamp Thing Absolute Volume 2. You can use my head to understand how really huge this thing is. These are amazing. They have covers that feel like moss on them. They have oversized art inside. It's just a really good way to pick up the series, or you can get the smaller trade paperback version, which comes in a box set or individual trades by themselves. Uh, Apologies for the glare. Go on Amazon with the affiliate link below, and you can see what they look like for yourself. Lastly, if you could give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video. Let us know what you think. Let us know how you feel about this particular issue. Let us know how you feel about us having the whole comic on the screen all at once. This is a first time thing for us. We're trying something new. I hope you enjoy it. Um,
Lastly, we want to give a big shout out to our editor, the Nacho King.
Dude, we couldn't do this without you. Like, your editing skills are amazing. It's going to take this hour and a half long video and hopefully cut it down into something that is reasonably usable and viewable. Thank you so much, dude. You're the best.
All right, so that's going to be our show, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to leave you with this important service announcement. If you hear something coming out of your toilet, please do not take a plunger in there as a weapon of self defense. Find something a little sturdier.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.